Viserys, the first of his name, the fifth Targaryen king, the son of Balon the Brave and Alyssa Targaryen, the older brother of the Rogue Prince, husband to Aemma Arryn and Alicent Hightower, and the father to 5 children. Yes, 5, I didn't forget Daeron the Daring. He is best boy. As a fan of Fire and Blood after rewatching season 1 of House of the Dragon, because ultimately, the Dance of the Dragons is a family conflict that was generations in the making, starting with Jaehaerys, but this is a Viserys video. It's all about Vizzy T. So today I'll be listing all the things Viserys could have done to prevent the Dance of the Dragon. Number 1, not impregnating Aemma so young. For those of you who don't know, in Fire and Blood, Viserys and Aemma were wed in 93 AC, when Viserys was 16 and Aemma was 11. Yes, 11. And Aemma became pregnant multiple times during the early years of their marriage, suffering multiple miscarriages before having an unnamed son who died in the cradle, then Rhaenyra, who was born in 97 AC. A few more miscarriages and stillbirths, before finally Balon, who died a few hours after Aemma did. I've seen a few people mention that because Aemma was so young when she first got pregnant, her body was not finished developing, and was never given a moment's rest because she was constantly pregnant. While I do agree with this, I don't see this as Viserys' fault. At least in the beginning of their marriage. Only in the beginning. Doing that, okay. They were married in 93 AC, a year after their uncle and Rhaenys' father Aemond had died in Tarth. And when Balon was made Prince of Dragonstone by Jaehaerys. Due to this, Balon's heirs were his sons Viserys and Daemon. So, if you think about it, only 3 people stood in between Rhaenys and the throne. So I can see Viserys and Aemma being pressured by Balon and Jaehaerys, mainly Jaehaerys, to have as many children as possible. Specifically sons that would make it harder for Viserys and Balon to be usurped. Number 2, not getting remarried. An option that many people feel Viserys should have taken, as the day Viserys married Alicent, war was pretty much inevitable. Although from the way I see it, it doesn't matter whether Viserys married Alicent, Laena, or some other woman. War would have still happened as long as that woman gave Viserys a son. Because let's be real, male primogeniture rules over Westeros. But if Viserys had never remarried, then Rhaenyra would have had no competition, and would have easily been able to ascend the throne because she would have had no siblings, aka no sons to usurp her. This could have worked if Viserys ensured that Rhaenyra immediately married after being named his heir. This way she could start having children and furthering the Targaryen line. But with this option, there still runs the threat of Daemon becoming king, or the crown passing to the Velaryons if Daemon and Rhaenyra were both to die. We can see this with the old King Jaehaerys. Just because you have a lot of children doesn't mean you won't have a succession crisis. I mean, the man had 13 children and only 2 outlived him. Who's to say that Rhaenyra wouldn't die in between the time that she was made heir when she had a child? She could fall down the stairs and break her neck, eat some food that was poisoned, or just go to sleep and never wake up. So if Viserys did choose to never remarry, he would have to ensure that Rhaenyra had children. True-born children. Number 3, establishing a clear succession. Viserys could have clarified the line of succession, ensuring that there was no ambiguity about who would inherit the Iron Throne after him. Greens were able to crown Aegon because there was nothing but the king's word that made Rhaenyra his heir, so they were easily able to say that Viserys had changed his mind before his death. Viserys should have either made a written law listing out his succession, either by stating Rhaenyra as his heir only for this generation, and that the royal family would continue male preference primogeniture, meaning that the eldest male inherits everything, or by stating that the Iron Throne is different from any other holdings in Westeros and would now practice absolute primogeniture, meaning that the eldest child inherits regardless of gender. Number 4, make Aegon his heir. Now, we all know that Viserys had promised Rhaenyra that she would not be usurped, but many of the lords of Westeros had expected that Aegon would be made heir the day that he was born, and many of them have found it offensive that he was never made heir, and that Rhaenyra remained in her position. Cases like Rhaena, the Queen of the East and the West, her daughter Arya, Daenerys, the daughter of Jaehaerys and Alyssa, and Rhaenys, the queen who never was, have proven at this point that the realm expects a man to inherit the Iron Throne. Rhaenyra was made heir before Aegon, Aemond, and Daeron were born, so no one would have put up much of a fight if Aegon was made heir as a baby, because that would have been seen as the natural order of things. If you wanted to appease Rhaenyra, Viserys could have made concessions to Rhaenyra in order to accept the loss of station, like giving her a choice in her marriage, gold, or even giving her Dragonstone to rule over as her own holding. Honestly, while it may have gone against Viserys' whole peaceful mindset and not wanting to disturb his family's happiness, making Aegon his heir probably would have been the easier decision if he was planning on getting remarried and having children. Number 5. Limiting the power of dragon. At the height of Jaehaerys' reign, only he, his wife, his 3 eldest children, and his older sister had dragons. The conflict at the dance was escalated because there were so many dragon riders and so much dragon power. Viserys could have implemented policies to limit the amount of dragon riders, like deciding that only his heir and her children could claim dragons, or that anyone else who tried to claim dragons would receive some form of punishment in order to deter his other children and other family members. Number 6. Combining Rhaenyra and Aegon's claim. In the show, it came off as Otto's overreaching by telling Viserys that he should marry Aegon and Rhaenyra, but doing so would have ended the factionalism at court. Rhaenyra, due to the age difference between her and Aegon, could have used that time to build up her power and influence. And with Rhaenyra as Aegon's wife, there would have been an incentive by the Greens to have Rhaenyra succeed, and they would have gotten their wish of eventually having someone with Hightower blood on the throne. You would still have to deal with people like Otto trying to make Aegon look like the true ruler on the throne, but it would definitely be the superior option than having a full-on civil war. Number 7. Abdication. Viserys could have abdicated the throne once it became clear that his health had deteriorated and that he was not going to improve. If Viserys had abdicated, allowing Rhaenyra to become queen, let's say 10 or 5 years before he died, Rhaenyra would have had time to firmly plant herself in politics. It would have been much harder to supplant an already ruling monarch, especially one that the people had time to get used to ruling them. And it would have been seen as clear usurpation if the Greens had tried to crown Aegon, as Rhaenyra would have already been crowned and been named queen. Even if they made the argument that Viserys had changed his mind, Viserys would have already given all of his power and authority to Rhaenyra, so it wouldn't have mattered. It also would have been seen as less believable because why would Viserys name Aegon as his heir when he just abdicated his throne to his daughter? Number 8. Making Rhaenyra Hand of the King. This ties in with the previous point of giving Rhaenyra more power and allowing people to get used to her being in power. Rhaenyra would have had more say over the matters of the realm, as she would have been seen as the second most powerful person in the realm behind her father. It also would have kept Rhaenyra in King's Landing, forcing her to be there instead of running off to Dragonstone when things apparently got too hard. And finally, number 9. Making your family an actual family. It was obvious to pretty much everybody besides Viserys, who loved to stick his head in the ground, that his family was gearing up for a war, that they were planning to fight each other over his throne. But Viserys did nothing to ensure any love or any hospitality between the two sides of his family. I mean, Alicent was fully convinced by her father that Rhaenyra would have to kill her sons in order to maintain her power, that they would always be a threat to her claim. And while I personally don't believe that Rhaenyra has it in her to kill her brothers, she definitely didn't help with the matter with how she treated them. She basically ignored them. And we see in Driftmark that she even threatened that Aemon should be sharply questioned, which basically means to be tortured. Her little brother who had just lost an eye to her son. Viserys claimed himself as a family man and yet did nothing to ensure that his family cared about each other. Like, Aegon, Aemond, Helena, Daeron, they were just expected to rely on the goodwill of their sister, without their father having given them any reassurance that Rhaenyra would take care of them. I mean, he didn't give them any lands, any titles, anything that would soften the blow or give them something else that could take them away from King's Landing. Viserys, like his body, just allowed his entire family to rot from the inside before dying a slow, painful death. And that's honestly the part that's most tragic about the Dance of the Dragons. The fact that this all could have been prevented. The fact that it all started because of a willfully blind king that refused to see what was right in front of him. That allowed himself to be pulled around by his dreams and guilt instead of ruling strongly and righteously. While he was a good man, good men don't often make good kings. He lacked the will, the desire, and the strength to actually do his job. And it's his complacency that ultimately doomed his family in the end. That brought fire and blood upon his house.